Welcome back to Prime Morning. Now, I know that before we went on a break, I mentioned that coming up next is Prime Insight. But, before Prime Insight comes in, we are going to have our Good Living segment every single Tuesday. This is what we bring to you. And we are so concerned, not just, about, feeding you with information, be it politics or entertainment. We are also concerned about your health. And that is the reason we have Good Living segment every single Tuesday. Now, today's topic for discussion, we are, going to talk about mental wellness, our mental health. It's a very, very important topic. If we start in a new year right now, how are we, mentally going to prepare ourselves as to what to look forward to, how to go about things in case we experience certain things down along the line, because definitely there'll be hurdles. You can't run away from that. How can you prep yourself mentally to get ready for what is ahead of you? Now, today, I have seated with me Seth Asafo, who is a clinical psychologist and a lecturer at the University of Ghana Medical School. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very fine, thank you. And you?
Oh, I'm great.
Awesome.
I'm great. It's a new year. But, before we get started on the topic, how was the Christmas, the festive season for you?
Well, as part of keeping my mental health sane,
right.
I did a lot of resting, basically. And not just resting in bed, but, resting and doing every other stuff apart from work.
Okay.
So that's been great.
So how were you keeping your mental health?
Well, when you go out and you do stuff that's fun, basically what you're doing is you're flushing out your mind of many of the stresses.
So having fun is very important.
It is. But
so
of
those
course,
of us that are, if we are doing ourselves harm.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not the best.
Okay.
And of course, having fun does not also mean going out and seeking excessive pleasure. Sometimes people overdo fun.
Yeah.
Having fun has nothing to do with being at the club from 7 to 4 a.m. 4 times a week. No, that's not fun, because you're wearing the body out. You're wearing the mind out when you do that. But the balance between work and fun is awesome for your mental health.
Okay, so before the segment came on, we were having the What's Trending segment. And then one of the trending stories is Nigerian superstar, Burna Boy. He's really trending. And he's trending because he was late on stage to come perform. He made his fans wait for 6 hours. Now, talking about fun, this is one of the, exciting things to do, to go watch your favorite musician perform and then sing along to his songs and all that. Now, with the fact that you want your mental health sane and then all that, would you have waited for Burna Boy for 6 hours?
Well, yes and no. Because, for instance, when you're in a crowd of people who are like-minded like you, it's equally fun.
Okay.
Okay, so the fact that you're with other fans who are already chanting and shouting and even sometimes getting upset by the artists, in itself is a connection of fun that you're having.
Okay.
Which is actually good for your mental health.
Wow. Oh, this is new.
Exactly. However, waiting that long without having anything to engage in can become stressful, because the anticipation builds what we call some form of anxiety within you. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Exactly. And the way the body and the mind reacts, most of the time we see these on the surface. But internally, there are so many things that are going on in your brain.
Yeah.
Release of different neurochemicals,
Exactly.
different titrations of stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the reality is, if you had to wait so long without knowing what else, it definitely causes you to be anxious.
Right.
And so if you translate that into general life, always thinking about the future and not being setting about what happens, it's extremely stressful. And what that does is it can put you in what we call an alarm state, or put you in a state of danger for years. You think about it, that we're here, but you're thinking about, can I do A, B, or C tomorrow? So you're here, but your mind is where? It's out there.
True.
And so you can be sitting here relaxing, but definitely you're running. Exactly.
Your mind is roaming around.
So we say that
doing all sorts of things.
For mental wellness, you need to stay in the present. Because all you have control over is now.
Is now.
If I were to ask a question, what are you worried about in this moment? There's nothing. Your worries are about the next minute, the next hour, the next day. That's really it. Stay in the present.
And that isn't healthy.
Nope.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so we are going to get on, deeper into this conversation. So viewers, we just started the Good Living segment, and today's topic is mental health, mental wellness. We want you to get interactive with us on all our socials, sending your questions. Seth is here. He's going to answer all the mental wellness questions that you have today. And so, Seth, let's get started on, the basics.
Yeah.
What is mental wellness?
Well, before that, because this was more like a precursor, also let me wish all our viewers and all of you here Happy New Year.
Right.
I believe that this year will be even more amazing than the previous year have been. Now, when we talk about mental well-being, we're generally looking at happiness. At the end of the day, if you bring everything down, it's just feeling a sense of comfort or feeling not unsettled, feeling happy and flourishing. That's what well-being is. Mental health, on the other hand, encompasses a much more bigger dimension of things.
Okay.
So most of the time when people hear mental health, they say, I'm not mad. Well, mental health, it goes far beyond being mad. It has to do with the way you think, which is usually what people see in the context of saying that someone's mad.
Okay.
Because their mental faculties may be faulty or impaired in a certain way. But it equally affects the way you feel. And most of us never pay attention to our feelings. So you might be upset all the time, and that's a feeling. You might be overly attached to somebody, that's also a feeling. And that can be catastrophic in a way. And then it also looks at the way that we act. So the kinds of actions that we play out. Obviously, people can infer to say, no, there's a problem. But did you also know that it goes to also look at the way we handle stress?
True.
And there's no way you can talk about mental well-being or mental health without talking about stress.
Yeah.
In fact, if there was one single reason or one single factor that could tip anybody off into a mental health crisis, it's stress. So we psychologists say that everybody's capable of having a mental health challenge. All they need is a necessary trigger. And you see this evidently by observing how somebody suddenly lost something about them, maybe their personality or their mind, when they lost a relationship, a job, had an accident or went through a traumatic event. So all these things tell you significantly how stressors can push people to experience a psychological challenge. And then also mental health encompasses the way we interact with one another. So if you want to enhance your mental health, you have to take steps within the way you think, because sometimes your thoughts can be faulty. You can actually think about someone in a certain way, and you'll see them in that way.
How does that even happen?
Well, nice question. So the human brain is an amazing tool.
Right.
Now, it has a fundamental flaw, which is equally its fundamental strength, which is this ability to make real everything you think about. Okay, so for example, if I ask you to close your eyes and imagine yourself imagine yourself in a big mansion with so much money you couldn't count, naturally you start to feel happy just thinking about it, okay? Now that's just the power of your imagination and the way your brain brings things into reality. Now in the same way, if I started to paint a scary story to you, you start to feel the emotions even though it's not real. And that's what the movies thrive on. So when you watch a movie, sometimes you watch an emotional movie and then you're teary at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And you've watched 12 of those movies and your favorite actor or actress has died, but you are still crying. Why are they immortals?
Yeah.
That's the power of the human mind, its ability to make things real. So when you start to have a thought, for example, so with many of the corporates we work with, lots of people have challenges with getting into the physical environment of their job. So as soon as they see the office building, they go like, oh my God, again. And automatically, they only start to see all the negative things that are associated with the job.
Just by that
simple
term.
Yes.
Oh, again.
And that's why we say affirmations are very important.
Right.
When you make affirmations to yourself, I am a great person, I'm going to have a lovely day. What you're doing is you're priming your mind to see the positives in the day, to see the positives in your environment. And also accept the realities. I know this whole movement of positivity sometimes can get overbearing.
Yeah, and it seems unrealistic because one or the other, yes, you encounter something that,
yes.
So it makes it so far-fetched.
Good.
Yeah.
But accepting the fact that life has ups and downs is the basis of all of this. And our focus would be to say, yes, when things happen that you didn't expect, or when things happen that, of course, weren't what you wanted, or they're painful, accepting that they've happened is a key step.
Wow.
Most people don't accept it, and they go on to distract themselves. They go on to find something to do so that, basically they can just move on.
Right.
Unfortunately, the brain is a big storehouse. It's like 100 terabytes, which stores information. So when you're looking for the information, it might take some time to find it, but the information is definitely there. So if you don't acknowledge that this has happened, this is wrong, I didn't expect it, it hurts me, you're ready to move on.
And that's only when you can easily move on.
Exactly. But if you try to distract yourself, and that's what brings about more of these negative coping mechanisms that people have.
Yeah.
Lose a job and then you start drinking because you feel like
you're holding on to it.
Exactly. You're actually drinking so you don't have to deal with the pain of losing your job, or you lose a relationship and then you start binge series watching.
Yeah.
It'll finish at the point, and you have
and
to
then
come
you go back
deal
to
with the same
issue. Yeah, at that point you've not accepted it.
Perfectly.
And so you're still going to...
Yeah, so you're coping, but you're using maladaptive coping mechanisms that bring more problems. If you lose a relationship and you binge series watching, it means every other productive thing in your life comes to a standstill.
Yeah.
And when you're out of it, you have to come and deal with the things that you left undone.
Wow. Okay. So, Seth, there's a very normal thing that you would hear people say quite a lot. You see someone, sad, or somebody not in the mood, and then you ask them, what's wrong with you? Oh, I'm depressed. I feel depressed. And then another person too will say, I'm too stressed. Sometimes I wonder, stress, depression, are they the same thing? Are we just using the terms anyhow? What is the difference? Is there any difference at all between stress and depression?
Yeah, there is a huge difference. However, both of them can influence each other. So you can be stressed and that can predispose you to a depression. And you can be depressed and that increases your stress. So there's a relationship there.
Okay.
However, depression is a disorder, like it's a psychological disorder that affects your mood. So when it comes to psychological disorders, you have those that affect your thinking. You have those that affect your mood. So in terms of being anxious, which is an emotion, being sad, which is an emotion, or even being excessively happy or euphoric, which is equally an emotion.
Right.
Now, however, the way that people tend to throw about the word depression is actually below its evaluation. Because depression is much more significant than feeling down or not feeling that all things are going the way that you wanted. Depression can be very significant. It can make things so difficult for someone who wakes up in the morning and there's no energy to even get out of bed. They just feel like life is not worth it. Maybe I'm better off dead than alive. I feel like I'm a burden on everyone.
So the moment you start having those thoughts, you're
probably on the lane
of depression.
Yeah, because making a diagnosis of depression is not just about being sad. There are several other things that we look at to say that someone is depressed. But obviously you're on the lane, kind of like you're experiencing some depressive symptoms, but you don't have a depression, okay? That's typically the way it works. Right. I mean, like in depression, you'd be interested to know that right after birth or during pregnancy is a high risk period for many women and even men to develop a depression. Are the thoughts of will I be a good mother? Will I be a good father? And thinking of this again, like I say, is the anxiety component. Can I? Right. Now, once that starts to happen and you start to feel anxious within yourself, that's a stressor. And the stress and the depression, like I said, are on the same lane. And once you become depressed, you see so many things happening around you, but you can't engage. And that's even more painful.
Yeah. And in this situation, you have depression and stress. working together only.
They form a cycle that just goes on and
just goes
never
on and on. Wow. Anyway, Seth, so we're in a new year.
Excellent.
And how can one prepare themselves to have a better state of mind for the new year?
Well, seeing a professional is the last of my options because there are so many things that you can do. And the very first one I want to say is it's a new year and many of us have New Year resolutions. We have goals that we want to achieve. Unfortunately, most of us have motivation for just a few days or weeks or months and then it dies. Like one of the cases that I have to deal with a lot is I want to go to the gym and I paid for the gym and I went for 1 month and I stopped. Well, this is the reality. There's something called the power of small steps. Most of us create or set our goals and they're too big. They're so involving. But when you start small, like they say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.
Yeah.
So I normally explain to people that reward yourself for the simple steps. Find things that you can do and do every single day. They push motivation. They tell the mind that you've done something amazing. So for instance, it could be as simple as waking up in the morning and laying in your bed. If you do that so consistently every day, your brain starts to feel, I'm useful. I am doing something. If you wake up every morning and maybe you read a one-pager in a newsletter or something, what you're doing is you're making your brain learn it's accomplishing. And the more it accomplishes, the more it what? It wants more. So that's one of the things I tell a lot of people in the beginning of every year. And as much as you set your goals, don't be worried about the main goal. Be more interested in the little steps you take towards the goal. So if you take 1 step, reward yourself for 1 step. If you take 2 steps, reward yourself for 2 steps. Now, there's a fallacy that people have, which is, if I say I'm going to do this and I'm not able to do it, then I've failed. But let me break it down further. Right. If I say I'm saving 1,000 cedis at the end of the year, and at the end of the year I've saved 30 cedis, is that a loss? No. I've still saved.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not able to see it. So then we beat ourselves even more, saying, I have failed. And it doesn't work that way. So the steps. So let's all remember to take 1 step at a time. That's all that takes us there. Now, to all the freebies that help with your mental well-being, number 1, exercise. Every exercise routine you take accomplishes one fact, tells the brain, I'm doing something. The second thing is exercise helps with the release of what we call endorphins, which are natural painkillers, or let's say feel-good chemicals within the body. In the same way, they come together with serotonin, dopamine, etc., which also makes you feel good. So apart from physically being active, which equally energizes your body. And look, if you go and exercise, one of the things you're doing is you're going to be breathing in more. Now, oxygen-rich blood goes to your brain. So that makes you positive. It makes you more lively, it makes you perform better. And I have you know that when you are worried, the part of your brain you use for active thinking, it goes to bed. Because the brain explains it as being in danger. Whenever you're worried, whenever you're anxious about something, the brain explains it as danger, 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 danger. Now, let's put it practically. So let's say in danger, you're being pursued by a wild creature. At what point do you stop and say, wild creature, stop, let me continue, let me go and finish some work, or let me interact with my family, or even eat, or even sleep? And that's why, typically when you're suffering, your sleep, your appetite, your social connections are impaired. So exercise is an amazing tool. And when you're exercising, your mind is free from worrying about the things that it typically worries about. Also, you fall in a gutter. You can't be jogging and then you say, oh, my bank, oh, my God, oh, my loan. You fall down. You'll stumble over something and fall. So exercise is amazing. Rest. What does rest do? Rest cleans the mind of the debris of every day. So like you have a byproduct every single day as you go through the day. And when you rest, it cleans it. 2, it also gives you an opportunity to go off all the things that are in your side that typically stress you out. Then let's come to nutrition, the kinds of food you eat. Now, by far, the research is telling us that they have found what they call Mediterranean diets, which are heavily premised on beans, fruits, vegetables, and fish.
Okay.
And these are powerful fuels for the brain. Now, the analogy is you have many kinds of fuel in this world: petrol, diesel, solar, nuclear. Now, they all have byproducts. And everybody's moving towards cleaner forms of energy.
Yeah.
So whatever you eat is going to energize you all right, but then the byproducts and the effect it has on your brain is equally a problem. 4, social connections. You must connect with people, safe people. And I say the word safe very cautiously, because sometimes the people whom you interact with may well be the people who cause you to feel even the worst state psychologically and emotionally because of the kinds of things they say, the things they do around you, or the way they make you even feel. But if you have a connection of trusting people, what it does is that it lets you thrive. For instance, during COVID, we noticed an interesting phenomenon when we staged a number of interventions. Now, the people who communicated to their friends and families how they were feeling seem to be the ones that got out of the anxious state very quickly. Because then their friends would say, I'm going through a similar thing. I'm going through a similar thing. So when we normally feel like, why me?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
I'm alone.
I'm alone. Yeah.
It's never that. It's never that. Right. And we also need a way to have an avenue to vent out or to give information. Now, women outlive men because of that.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they're more expressive. They vent out.
Yeah.
Men tend to bottle things and be doing and then you get high blood pressure and you're gone.
And you're gone.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes. And then the last one for me is temperance. Learning to balance stuff. A good balance between fun, work, family is important. You see, too much of everything is bad. We all know that. Unfortunately, we are unable to practice it. So I work a lot. Too much of working takes me away from all the other things that I can do to maintain my health. Too much of fun equally makes the brain dull. Because it says, I'm not doing anything. I don't feel like I'm being driven by anything. I don't have purpose, etc., etc. Now, when you've done all these things, these are supposed to be preventive measures. So let's not wait to get into a state of drain when it comes to our emotional and psychological health. Do these habits gradually, incrementally, they'll make you feel better and your well-being optimal.
Wow.
These are the free ones.
These are the free ones. But then, you mentioned something. I wanted you to put a percentage as to, okay, family, for yourself, for work, for fun. What percentage specifically would you give to all these?
So that's a great question. Unfortunately, you can't give a percentage, and there's a reason for it. You see, as you grow, your priorities in life will shift around. So there are certain things that will take more of your time than the other.
Okay.
What we're saying is that regardless, there must be a balance.
Okay.
You can't work every single day, not interact with your friends, not interact with your family, whether it's immediate or extended. Not take care of your health. So when it comes to your own diet, your resting patterns, or even something recreational, what you're doing is you're setting up your mind in this way, which says, danger, 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 danger.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to turn off that danger signal by doing something else.
Something distractive.
Yes. You can't, it's incongruent to be in danger and be having fun.
Yeah.
So in as much as your mind might say we're in danger, every time you hang out with friends and you play football, or you play a game of Scrabble or cards or whatever you love to do, your brain says, oh, okay, so it's not danger as I thought it. So it gives you time for the brain to reverse itself and say, oh, false alarm.
I get it. Wow. So viewers, this, like I mentioned earlier, that this conversation, Good Living segment, promises to be very educative. Now, with the freebies that Seth has mentioned so far, you first of all mentioned exercising, which is very, very important, that you need to exercise. And then you went to resting.
Yep.
that you need to take enough rest.
Especially 7 to 8 hours sleep every day.
7 to 8 hours sleep. It's very important that you do so. And then the foods that you take in.
Yes, beans, fruits, vegetables. And then the foods are high in omega-3, especially fish.
And then learning to balance. This is something that a lot of us don't know how to do.
True.
When it comes to work, you find a lot of us overworking. When it comes to fun, you find a lot of us who are having too much fun.
Yes.
And then those of us that would be just called up in our shell, just doing our own thing, you find us doing that a lot too. We need to put a balance to this. It is very, very important if you want to protect your mental health, if you want to have a very stable and good mental well-being, you need to take these practices on. Now, viewers, would want you to get interactive with us on our socials. We're going to open the phone line, so you call in if you have any questions at all. Seth is here, he's going to answer your questions. And then if you can't, call the phone number, we're going to put our WhatsApp line on as well. So you send in your text messages. I'm going to read them. If you have any experience at all with stress, depression, what have you learned so far? I want to know, because I make sure that Seth, gave us the difference between stress and depression. Although they seem similar, they are not the same. They are similar, but not the same. And so send in your messages. The phone lines will be open, so we get interactive.
Yeah.
Seth.
Yes.
Now, coming to you, what are some of the signs that one would know that my mental health or mental well-being is being compromised?
Awesome. So there are several things, and I'm always looking at them from the perspective of your thinking. I'm looking at it from the perspective of your feelings, and then your actions. Okay. So when it comes to your thoughts, you might start to feel very paranoid. You start to feel like the world is against you.
Yeah.
The world is unfair.
Yeah.
It's like you've been singled out, and you're the only one who's going through a lot. That could be a sign that your mental health is taking a hit, okay? When it comes to mood, you might be feeling overly sad, you might be feeling overly anxious, you might be feeling overly angry. So especially in men, when their mental health takes a hit, they tend to become more angry. They might not show bouts of crying,
like women would.
No,
yeah.
They tend to be very upset.
Yeah.
Or engage in behaviors like drinking, smoking or using drugs, excess use of caffeine. I mean, we look at caffeine as it's not such a big deal. But if you look at the research, they'll tell you if you're not a caffeine addict, then just don't even start. Because at the end of the day, what it does is it stimulates the brain. It's a stimulant, and it increases the amount of what we call cortisol, your stress hormone. Now, cortisol is what brings that alertness that we feel. So when you binge on energy drinks, what you're doing is you're increasing cortisol. That gives you that alertness. But the trade-off is it's telling your body that we are in danger.
So the alertness that the caffeine brings,
yes.
That's the reason you have a lot of people early morning, they are taking all sorts of things, and you find somebody in the course of the day wanting to take energy drinks because they feel that if they take energy drinks, it will boost
perfectly
their energy. Which
actually is true. It's not that it boosts your energy, it boosts your alertness.
Your alertness,
yes.
Not the energy.
Perfectly. You are I mean, let me give you a more practical example. Like if you're sitting in a car, okay, someone's driving and you're dozing off, and then they bump a really huge pothole, and then you hit your head.
Yeah.
The moment you wake up, it's like you never slept. There's a certain alertness that you get. That's the same thing it does, because it operates on both fear, okay, and strength.
Oh.
So that's what happens typically in states like that. Okay, so you might notice that. You might notice that it's become very difficult for you to make decisions. You might notice that you're becoming very forgetful. And an example I'm always throwing about is, most of us sometimes you might remember, like you get in a car. You remember getting in a car, whether you're driving or whether you're boarding a public vehicle whatsoever. You get to your destination, you wonder, so what happened during this trip? You
just get lost.
And that's because your mind's been wandering all this while. And you tend to think about the future a lot. But you see, the problem of thinking about the future is that you are using the resources you have today. and you're marching against future demands, it will always be inadequate. It will always be inadequate. So you're always going to feel stressed about it. But every new day brings the opportunity. And that's why we say live in the present.
But then someone would also say
yes.
that if I don't think of how the future should be or the necessary steps I need to take towards the future, how can I get there?
And I'll say, if you're not in the present, what will you do to ensure the future is good? You're in the present.
So you need to be in the present.
Exactly.
And see what is going on around you presently.
Do what you can in a day. Do what you can. If you spend... Good. Let me give you another practical example. See, lots of times when people say they are fasting and praying, there's one thing they do more than fasting and praying. They look at the time. Exactly.
Okay.
They spend more time looking at the time than actually fasting and praying. And you know why that happens?
Why?
It's because the mind starts to say, 12 hours. Yay, 12 hours. But there are days where you've gone without eating and not even recognized it because you were in the moment. But the moment you go in the future, you start to wonder, and for some reason, that day is just the longest day you've had in your entire life. That's kind of what happens when you're thinking about the future all the time. So you're never doing anything in the present that actually impacts the future. You're spending more time thinking than acting. When you think about the future, tell me realistically, what are you doing?
You're just there.
You're thinking.
You're just there thinking.
But you're not doing anything.
You're not being productive.
Exactly.
So you're just wasting time.
Yes. It's not saying that don't plan. That's the difference. Planning is great. But we always say that when you plan, be ready to have plan B, plan C, plan D. Lots of people so tunnel vision. When they plan is only A. So when A hits a stumbling block, then they're frustrated. But when you must know, the human brain and the human being, we're so adaptable. Whatever situation you throw at us, we'll find a way. You say necessity is the mother of invention. COVID came. Human beings, regardless of how it was in the beginning, have adapted. And we've seemed to have come out top again and much stronger. And that's resilience.
Okay, so we have a lot of messages coming through. Let me pick a few of them. Okay, there are quite a number of questions. Okay, so first one is, my name is Beatrice Sebe. I think, this was in relation to Pele's death. Okay, the question that she's asking again today is, please, does stress give severe pimples?
There's a theory like that. I just can't validate. I mean, we've heard about it.
When you see someone break out, you go you're too stressed.
They say that like during high periods of stress, the body takes a hit. And so there's so many things. So let me explain it from this perspective. Stress affects every single organ and system of your body. Okay, so in doing so, it can tip other bodily functions out of place. For example, the very first thing that seems to happen whenever you go into a stressful situation is your heart. Your heart starts to beat more because it explains it as being in danger, okay? Now, the moment your heart starts to beat like that, it also holds certain functions. You don't work, like with the secretion of your stomach, what we call ghrelin. That makes you feel like feeding. And that's why in periods of high stress, people lose appetite, okay? In the same light, your immune system, which is the bodily soldiers, they go to bed. Or it says, we don't need you now because we're in danger. And it thinks about danger from a very physical perspective, like a gun to your head. So if it's a gun to my head, what am I worried about viruses and bacteria for? This one can kill me much quicker. So it says, I'm prioritizing this. You go off so that I can conserve the energy. Now, when all these systems are going out of sync, then you have a problem because the body is always looking for, it's trying to maintain a certain consistency. So that's why, like in a cold day, you see that your pores will close and your body will contort, just so it can maintain that optimum level of heat. In the same way, when it's hot, it will open the pores. So the body is trying to do these balances. Unfortunately, when you go into a period of stress, it's a time of danger. When Ghana went into COVID lockdown, everybody felt a certain level of danger, even though it wasn't like a gun to your head. That kind of the feeling that is created within the internal environment of the brain. And so it prepares for war when there's no war.
So it's sort of like when you put yourself in such a situation, you end up overworking the body, certain organs.
You are working some parts, and you are putting some parts
to
off.
Rest.
However, all these parts work in sync to ensure that you are completely okay. So it's okay that you can turn some off and on for some periods, but when it becomes extended, then we're in trouble.
Wow. Okay, so let's take another message. I'm Nana Kojo, watching you live from Western North, Jaboso. Thank you very much. Honestly, I love the show and words come from it. It's really educative. Big ups to Seth Asafo. Okay, thank you very much for your message. Hello, good morning. I'm really happy about the conversation. God bless you. What one thing can one do to overcome a relationship stress?
Awesome. Well, I wish there was more context, because relationship stress can come from...
I'm sure the person is trying to ask about boy-girl relationships.
I know, but they can come from different dimensions. It could come from infidelity, lack of emotional concern, finances, etc., etc. Now, maybe I'll give a general statement and say, remember one thing. You are a priority. Okay? Whether you're in
you are a priority.
You are a priority.
Yourself.
Exactly. Now, the kind of energy that you give out is exactly the same way you are treated by people.
Hold that thought, Seth. We have a caller on the line. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm calling from Somanya.
Right. Okay. Okay, talk to us.
Yeah, I want to find out something from doctor.
Okay. Please ask.
All right. This is what I do. I don't know whether it's a disorder.
Okay.
Please, I don't rest or sleep during the day or during daytime. The whole day I might go to work, close, come back and do the whole stuff during the day or daytime. But around 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. within those hours, I go to bed. But the moment it is 2:30 a.m. or 3:30 a.m., I wake up and that is all. I can't go to bed again.
Okay.
So I don't know whether it is a disorder or something of that. So I want to find out from him.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel.
Okay. So I mean that falls to the realm of what we call sleep disorders. Now, in every sleep disorder, you're looking at challenge with either going to bed, maintaining your sleep. So when you go to bed, how are you able to sustain your sleep? Now, what he's talking about seems to have to do, and I don't know, I should have asked him if what he does when he wakes up. Okay, so we have what we call your body's circadian rhythm or your biological clock. Now, you can train your biological clock. So depending on the habits that you do so consistently, you become conditioned to things like that. So if you go to bed and you wake up at 3, question is, what do you do? If you wake up and you take your phone, you start to activate your brain again. Okay. The blue light from your screen in itself activates the brain. Right. If you wake up and you naturally just lay in bed, I know some people have sleep challenges. So what I tell them, you just lay in bed. It doesn't matter. Don't be worried about, which the other concern is when lots of people wake up, they start to think, why is it that only me? I cannot sleep.
Right after you wake up.
And the moment that thought comes in, another potential is created. You start to worry. So then you can't go to bed again.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you go to bed, wake up, and try not to do anything. The other logical thing to do would be to increase the time, to take up the time that you go to bed. If you're sleeping at 9, try hitting 11, okay? If you sleep at 11, we know it's 2 more hours, so you probably wake up at 5, which makes you feel like, oh, after all, 5 is understandable. But 3, am I part of the witches conglomerate? So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's take a few more messages. Good morning. Kautino, I don't know the pronunciation, testing from Eyukuma. My question is, how do I get away with bad thinking We are pressed with time, so I want to go through the messages. Wow, very educative indeed. Thanks to Mr. Seth Yao Sam from Prestia. Thank you for your message. I want to know which moment of the day is very best important to rest, afternoon or evening? Okay. This one says, good morning. My name is Nuruddin from Kaswa. What's your advice for those in depression and think strong alcohol or hard drugs is what will help them overcome that? Okay, that's a very interesting question. And then, please, my name is Mr. Na Prince. Please, I'm a married man, and how can sex help in stress? Okay. This one says, hi, I'm Theresa from Kumasi. I got postpartum blues when I had my first child, was so depressed at my second attack when I lost 2 family members within a month. And sometimes I don't feel like talking to anyone or to see anyone. I do have mood swings a lot sometimes, happy sometimes. I am a different person. Okay, so we have Angie on the line. Hello, good morning, Angie.
Good morning, my dear. Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you too?
I'm great.
Right.
I'm good.
Talk to us.
Yeah. I have a question for my boss, and I think he can help me out here.
Okay.
Yeah. My question is that, you see, most of the times in depression, most of the doctors may prescribe drugs such as the monoamine oxidase inhibitors. And those drugs, most of the times, what they do is they try to increase the endogenous, neurotransmitters, the excitatory neurotransmitters, to make sure that the person is able to live a normal life. But my question is that, is there a possibility that someone on these kind of drugs for a very long time, it will get to a time that the individual will be alert, so alert that he or she cannot calm down?
Alert in what sense?
Okay. You see, it is to take the person from the depression.
Yes.
So it has, my question is supposed to be like, can there be a time that the person will be too anxious, acting like too happy or something, when the person is on the drug for a very long time?
Okay, I get it. Okay, so thank you very much. I get your question. I guess what you're asking is it possible that some antidepressant medication can tip people into excessive happiness? Okay, that typically can happen within people who have bipolar disorders. And bipolar is a mood disorder between excessive happiness and excessive sadness. Now, when it comes to medication in the treatment of many psychological disorders, you always understand that the gold standard is therapy and medication. So we no longer are interested in medication only, okay? They all have their limitations. Guess what? When you come to depression treatment currently, the best evidence of what is being used to treat medication is actually exercise. 30 minutes of walking 3 times a day. That's it. And when they compared it to people who were on medication, they were doing better.
Okay.
So imagine that you have that plus medication. Then you should be on top of the world, as it were.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we are all made up very differently, and different people have the ways they tolerate different substances. So be regular with your appointments and reviews with your psychiatrist in order to get the best outcomes.
Okay, so we have another caller on the line. Good morning, Umu. Calling from Bogota. Hello? Okay, so we have another caller on the line.
Yes, but the person in business say, I am
Can you please lower the volume of your TV set? Okay, so Umu is off. But then, Seth.
Yeah.
So someone was asking if sex can be a stress reliever. And then also we have someone talking about the fact that she went through postpartum blues and, she lost some family members in a month. she was feeling, she didn't feel like talking to anybody at some point. She wouldn't want to see anybody. And she also had mood swings. A lot of times she's happy and then she becomes a different person. It's like on and off, on and off. You know?
I mean, I'll have you understand that when it comes to postpartum or perinatal depression, it can happen from anywhere between after birth to even after a year. Okay, so if she says she has postpartum blues, that's just a few weeks after giving birth. Okay, which could have further escalated into where she's at now. So my recommendation would be see your GP or see a psychologist or a psychiatrist to basically look at what's going on at the moment. But it seems that she's definitely experiencing some symptoms. I just can't make a diagnosis, but see one of your professionals so that they can help you navigate that water. Now, about sex and then stress. Well, stress, I mean, sex is a great sex relieving tool if done for the right reasons. If you, on the other hand, decide to have sex where you lace your system with all these aphrodisiacs, sadly, you're stressing your body. You're stressing your body. Okay, so if you're having sex with the normal capacity as a human being and you're enjoying it, that's great. It helps to calm you down. In fact, if you look at what happens, like the muscles generally relax after a great episode of sex. But on the other hand, if you're wearing yourself out 2 hours, 3 hours, you're actually stressing yourself. Or if you're having sex to impress, what you're doing is you have a performance anxiety. So the act of sex is not for relaxation, neither is it for pleasure. It's just to make a conquest, and that can be stressful. So remember, the thought comes in. The thinking process behind the action equally matters in this regard. Okay.
All right, Seth, thank you very much for coming through and then, you know, educating us on our mental health. But then someone wants to know if, is it okay if you can't sleep? Is it okay to take sleeping pills?
It depends. Most sleeping pills, which we call benzodiazepines, have an addictive potential, okay? So if you tend to take sleeping pills, then what you're doing is you're recalibrating your system to be able to sleep only with sleeping pills. And that can even bring about what we call rebound insomnia. Because at some point, the body will build tolerance and you need more and more and more of those sleeping pills. And let's say that we can't say, they also have side effects. So if you're taking sleeping pills, generally what they do is they prescribe it because you're in a state, and it's for a few days, between 1 and 5 days. Afterwards, you have to go back to your normal sleep cycle. So it's not the best.
Okay, it's not the best. So Seth, before you go, final remarks on mental well-being in relation to the new year.
Well, you're responsible for your mental well-being and you're responsible for you. If you prioritize you and you stop caring about what the world thinks about you, you will thrive mentally. Because majority of the stresses that we have are societal. It's about how people think we are, what we think they'll say. But if you start focusing on you, it's okay for people to say whatever they want to say about you. But how do you think about yourself is more important. And that would be my message. Prioritize you in 2023 and your mental well-being will thrive and flourish.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Seth. But then before you go, what's your New Year's resolution?
Well, I haven't even made one.
You haven't?
Doing the same things I've always done.
Which is?
Like educating people, because it gives me a lot of happiness.
Okay, right, all right. So speaking of New Year's resolution, our next topic for discussion is on the topic New Year's resolution. Our guest is ready for you. KMJ will bring in this particular next segment. This is where we end Good Living segment right here on Prime Morning. My name is Asiodua Akumia, and my guest is Seth Asafo, who is a clinical psychologist and a lecturer at University of Ghana Medical School. Seth, thank you once more, and then we hope to have you once more.
Anytime. You're
Anytime.
welcome.
All right, so do stay tuned for Prime Insights.